Jets locker room burst up. On August 11, 2015, inside the New York Jets locker room, a heated argument suddenly boiled over. Linebacker I.K. Enemkpali confronted quarterback Geno Smith over a $600 debt tied to a canceled trip. Words turned sharp, tempers snapped, and Enemkpali threw a punch that broke Smith's jaw. The hit stunned the team. Smith, slated to start that season, was forced into surgery and sidelined for 6 to 10 weeks. In one moment, the Jets lost their starting quarterback and the course of their season shifted. Head coach Todd Bowles wasted no time. Just hours after the altercation, the Jets released Enemkpali, calling the incident childish and unacceptable. But the story took another twist the very next day. Rex Ryan, who had coached Enemkpali in New York, claimed him off waivers for the Buffalo Bills. The NFL later reviewed the case, suspending Enemkpali 4 games for violating the league's personal conduct policy. He played briefly in Buffalo, but his reputation never recovered. The fight became the defining mark of his short career. For Geno Smith, the injury carried long-lasting consequences. Veteran Ryan Fitzpatrick stepped in as a starter and led the Jets to a surprising 10-6 record. Smith never fully regained his position, and the broken jaw became a turning point in his career. What began as a dispute over $600 turned into one of the most infamous locker room incidents in NFL history. A single punch that altered the paths of 2 players and reshaped an entire season. Washington camp facility burst up. On August 19, 1997, Washington's training camp in Carlisle, Pennsylvania was supposed to be routine. But that morning, practice stopped cold when wide receiver Michael Westbrook suddenly turned on his own teammate, running back Stephen Davis. In full view of players, coaches, and reporters, Westbrook unleashed a furious attack, punching Davis multiple times until he collapsed to the ground, face down and bleeding. Stunned teammates rushed to pull Westbrook away, but the damage was already done. The incident made headlines across the country, with television cameras capturing the aftermath. Questions swirled about how a team could move forward after such a public breakdown in discipline. The response came quickly. The Redskins fined Westbrook $50,000, one of the largest penalties of its kind at the time. Westbrook later issued an apology to Davis, to the team, and to fans, but the moment became an enduring stain on his career. Raiders practice field burst up. This incident happened on August 24, 2003, inside the Raiders training camp. On the practice field in Napa, a routine drill turned into one of the ugliest moments in NFL locker room history. Linebacker Bill Romanowski, already notorious for his violent reputation, went head-to-head with rookie tight end Marcus Williams. In the heat of the drill, Romanowski ripped off Williams' helmet and unleashed a punch so brutal it shattered his left eye socket and chipped a tooth. Williams collapsed instantly. The injury ended his season and effectively ended his career at just 27 years old. The Raiders fined Romanowski roughly $60,000, but the fallout stretched far beyond the practice field. Williams filed a $3.8 million civil lawsuit, arguing that Romanowski's assault destroyed his future in football. The 2005 trial was dramatic. Teammates testified that the blow was so loud it made a sickening sound. NFL legend Jerry Rice took the stand, saying Romanowski had crossed the line and that even in a violent game, some boundaries should never be broken. In the end, a California jury awarded Williams about $340,000 in damages, covering lost salary and medical costs. Romanowski later added another $75,000 in settlement and stood before the media with an apology, admitting his actions were classless and holding himself accountable. For Williams, it was the abrupt and painful end of a dream. For Romanowski, it cemented his legacy as one of the most feared and most controversial players the NFL had ever seen. By the way, I'm going to be posting a lot more interesting videos on the channel. I'll greatly appreciate it if you could show support by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Thank you. Panthers training camp burst up. On November 18, 2002, inside the Carolina Panthers film room, what began as a routine session turned into one of the most infamous incidents in team history. Wide receiver Steve Smith Sr., already known for his fiery temperament, lashed out at teammate Anthony Bright during the meeting. In front of stunned coaches and players, Smith attacked Bright, striking him repeatedly. The assault left Bright with serious injuries. His nose was broken, his face was badly swollen, and he had to be hospitalized for 2 nights. Teammates later described the aftermath as disturbing, with Bright barely recognizable from the swelling. The Panthers quickly took action. Smith was suspended for 1 game, fined, and arrested on a charge of misdemeanor assault. The suspension forced him to miss the team's upcoming game against the Atlanta Falcons. For Anthony Bright, the fallout was devastating. He never played another down in the NFL. In 2004, he filed a lawsuit against Smith and the Panthers, claiming the attack caused lasting nerve damage and derailed his football career. Although Smith eventually entered a deferred prosecution program and the criminal charges were dismissed, the episode left a lasting scar. Bright's dream of an NFL career ended in that film room, while Smith went on to build a career that would earn him recognition as one of the league's toughest receivers. Giants locker room burst up. In 1994, the New York Giants locker room turned into a fight scene that few would forget. Rookie defensive tackle Chris Mamalanga, known for his fiery temper, got into a heated exchange with second-year defensive end Michael Strahan. Teammates later recalled that Mamalanga threw the first punch. Strahan dodged the blow and countered, locking Mamalanga in a rear-naked choke until others stepped in to break it up. In the scuffle, Mamalanga was left with cuts that required stitches, a brutal reminder of how quickly tensions could explode behind closed doors. The Giants acted decisively. While Strahan stayed on the roster and continued building the foundation of a Hall of Fame career, Mamalanga's time in New York was cut short. Not long after the incident, the team released him. For Strahan, the fight became little more than a footnote in a legendary career that ended with 141.5 sacks, a Super Bowl ring, and enshrinement in Canton. For Mamalanga, it became the moment he was remembered for most in his brief NFL journey. Seahawks team tension. In February 2014, as the Seattle Seahawks prepared for Super Bowl 48, all eyes were on their dominant defense and explosive playmakers. But behind closed doors, tensions were boiling. Reports later revealed that star wide receiver Percy Harvin and teammate Golden Tate were involved in a fight during Super Bowl week. According to multiple outlets, Harvin punched Tate in the face, leaving him with a cut and sending shockwaves through the locker room. Former Seahawk Michael Robinson later confirmed the altercation and said he personally stepped in to break it up. Golden Tate, however, publicly denied that Harvin ever punched him, calling those reports false. Yet years later, Harvin himself admitted to the incident, even describing how the punch left Tate cut and dazed. Despite the drama, Seattle went on to crush the Denver Broncos 43-8, securing the franchise's first championship. But the clash between Harvin and Tate left its mark. Tate departed that offseason, signing with the Detroit Lions, while Harvin's struggles with injuries and locker room chemistry led to his trade to the New York Jets just months later. The Seahawks had conquered the NFL's biggest stage, but the fight between two of their top receivers showed just how thin the line can be between dominance on the field and discord off it. Ravens training camp burst up. On August 21, 2020, Baltimore Ravens training camp was in full swing when frustration erupted on the practice field. During a defensive drill, safeties Earl Thomas and Chuck Clark clashed after a blown coverage. Words were exchanged, tempers flared, and Thomas threw a punch. Teammates and coaches rushed in to separate the two, but the tension didn't stop there. Clark, furious, slammed his helmet to the ground in full view of everyone. By the next day, Thomas had been sent home from team facilities. The fight wasn't seen as an isolated outburst. Reports pointed to mounting frustration inside the locker room, with teammates citing his lateness to meetings and difficulty fitting into the team's culture. On August 23rd, the Ravens made their decision. They terminated Earl Thomas's contract, citing conduct detrimental to the team. The move carried a heavy price, more than $10 million in guaranteed salary left hanging in dispute. But for Baltimore's leadership, preserving unity mattered more than keeping a star. In just 1 year, a Super Bowl champion and 7-time Pro Bowler had gone from the Ravens' prized free agent signing to an unwanted distraction. The Leadership Council made it clear they'd had enough. The release left Chuck Clark as a cornerstone in the secondary and opened the door for Deshaun Elliott to step into the starting lineup. For Thomas, the fight marked the abrupt end of his time in Baltimore and his last snap in the NFL. The question still lingers. Was this the right call by the Ravens? Or did they cut ties with elite talent too quickly? Eagles team meeting altercation. It was November 2005, and the Philadelphia Eagles were falling apart from the inside. Their superstar wide receiver, Terrell Owens, was already locked in battles with teammates, coaches, and management. But the breaking point came not on the field, but in the team's own facility. Inside a meeting room, Owens clashed with Hugh Douglas, his former teammate who had returned as the team's official ambassador. Douglas walked in and reportedly called out players for faking injuries. Owens fired back. and the exchange quickly turned into a physical confrontation. Teammates rushed in as shoving and chaos broke out. Some described it as looking more like a wrestling match than a team discussion. No serious punches were landed, but the damage was already done. The altercations symbolized months of tension, contract disputes, public jabs at quarterback Donovan McNabb, and a locker room split down the middle. Just days later, on November 5, 2005, the Eagles suspended Owens indefinitely for conduct detrimental to the team. By November 7th, the suspension was officially set at 4 games. Then came the shocking decision. Owens was deactivated for the remainder of the season. An arbitrator upheld the move, ending his year in Philadelphia. The Eagles finished the season 6-10, missing the playoffs for the first time in years. Owens would never play for the team again. One heated clash in a meeting room didn't just end a season, it closed the book on one of the most explosive chapters in Eagles history and cemented Terrell Owens' reputation as one of the NFL's most talented yet polarizing stars. Patriots locker room burst up. On September 9, 1979, the New England Patriots had just demolished the New York Jets 56-3 at Foxborough Stadium. But the most unforgettable moment of the day wasn't on the field. It happened in the locker room. Inside the Patriots locker room, cornerback Raymond Claiborne was visibly agitated. Tension had carried over from practice, and when Boston Globe columnist Will McDonough stepped in to calm the situation, things quickly escalated. Claiborne poked McDonough in the face. Without hesitation, McDonough fired back. He landed 2 punches that sent the Pro Bowl cornerback stumbling into a laundry cart, shocking players, staff, and media in the room. Chaos broke out. Some witnesses swore Claiborne was floored with a single shot. Others remembered a brief scuffle. The scene grew even wilder when team owner Billy Sullivan, caught in the commotion, was knocked into a laundry bin. The NFL fined Claiborne $2,000 for his conduct toward the media. McDonough, meanwhile, walked away with his reputation as one of Boston's toughest reporters firmly cemented. Years later, his son Sean would laugh that while other kids bragged about their dads, he could say his father once knocked out an NFL player. Raiders coaches burst up. On August 5, 2009, at the Raiders training camp in Napa, California. Inside a coach's meeting room, tension exploded. Assistant coach Randy Hansen later told police that head coach Tom Cable punched him in the face, sending him into a cabinet and leaving him with a fractured jaw. News of the alleged assault spread quickly, painting the Raiders as a team in chaos. Hansen was treated at a hospital while police opened an investigation. For weeks, speculation swirled. Had a head coach really attacked one of his own staff during camp? Cable denied throwing a punch. He admitted there was an argument but insisted the story had been exaggerated. 3 other assistants in the room backed Cable's account, telling investigators they never saw him strike Hansen. On October 22nd, the Napa County District Attorney announced no criminal charges would be filed, citing conflicting statements and a lack of clear evidence. But the controversy was far from over. Hansen filed a civil suit, keeping the case alive in court even as Cable tried to move forward with the season. The fallout went beyond one incident. It became another flashpoint in the Raiders' turbulent culture under Al Davis, a period marked by dysfunction, mistrust, and public spectacle. Years later, fans still debate the moment. Was it an assault covered up by loyalty, or a bitter feud blown out of proportion? Jaguars practice burst up. In December 2021, the Jacksonville Jaguars season collapsed under a headline that stunned the NFL head coach Urban Meyer, already facing mounting criticism, was accused by former kicker Josh Lambo of something no one expected from a leader. Lambo told the Tampa Bay Times that during warm-ups in the preseason that August, Meyer walked up to him, kicked him in the leg, and barked, "Hey, Dips, make your effing kicks." Lambo said it wasn't playful. It hurt. When he told Meyer never to kick him again, Meyer allegedly replied, "I'm the head ball coach. I'll kick you whenever the F I want." Meyer flatly denied the story, calling Lambo's account inaccurate. But the team confirmed Lambo's agent reported the incident to the Jaguars' legal counsel in August, months before the public found out. The timing couldn't have been worse. The Jaguars were 2-11, tension was spilling into the locker room, and ownership's patience was gone. On December 16th, just hours after Lambo's claims hit the press, Shad Khan fired Meyer, ending one of the shortest and most chaotic coaching stints in NFL history. Lambeau later filed a lawsuit against the Jaguars, alleging a hostile work environment. A judge dismissed the first filing in November 2022, but Lambeau refiled with an amended complaint, keeping the controversy alive. The incident remains one of the most infamous coaching scandals of the modern era. Giants team cafeteria burst up. In August 2002, training camp had just begun for the New York Giants, and all eyes were on their fiery new first-round pick, Jeremy Shockey. The rookie tight end from Miami carried swagger, talent, and a reputation for speaking his mind. But on his very first night at camp, that attitude sparked chaos. Inside the team cafeteria, veteran linebacker Brandon Short demanded the rookie take part in a traditional hazing ritual. Stand up, state his name, his school, his signing bonus, and sing a song. Shockey wasn't interested. Instead, he cracked back with a sharp comment. Short didn't appreciate the defiance, and within moments, the two men were throwing punches in front of stunned teammates. The fight lasted only seconds before head coach Jim Fassel rushed in to pull them apart. For a moment, what should have been a routine dinner turned into a headline-making brawl. The next day, both players tried to put the story to rest. Shockey called it no big deal, insisting it was just competitiveness. Short brushed it off as nothing unusual in a football locker room. Fassel, meanwhile, downplayed the confrontation, even as he admitted the timing, Shockey's first night, wasn't exactly ideal. There were no suspensions, no fines, and no lingering punishment. But the message was clear. Shockey wasn't in New York to play nice. That cafeteria fight became the first glimpse of his fiery edge, a side of him that would follow throughout his career. From the moment he stepped into Giants camp, Jeremy Shockey proved he wouldn't back down, not even from his own teammates. Bears training camp burst up. On August 4, 2014, in Bourbonnais, Illinois, Chicago, Bears training camp was in full swing when tempers boiled over. During an 11-on-11 drill, rookie cornerback Kyle Fuller went after the ball, grabbing tight end Martellus Bennett's shoulder pads in an aggressive attempt to strip it loose. Bennett didn't take kindly to the move. In an instant, he lifted Fuller and slammed him to the ground. Teammates rushed in, practice stopped, and head coach Mark Trestman ended the session early. The next day, the Bears sent a clear message. Bennett was fined and suspended indefinitely for conduct detrimental to the team. Trestman explained the decision, stressing that discipline and accountability mattered more than any single player's frustration. Bennett, outspoken as ever, defended himself in front of reporters, saying he refused to be pushed around. But the suspension lasted 6 days before he was reinstated and allowed to return to practice on August 10th. For Fuller, it was a hard introduction to NFL intensity. For Bennett, it was another chapter in a career marked by talent, personality, and controversy. One drill, one body slam, and a practice fight that carved its place into Bears history. Cowboys training camp burst up. On August 2nd, 2015, inside Dallas Cowboys training camp in Oxnard, California, the second day in pads, and the intensity was already boiling over. Wide receiver Dez Bryant lined up across from cornerback Tyler Patman. After a play turned physical, Patman ripped off Bryant's helmet. Bryant fired back, yanking Patman's helmet in return. Within seconds, fists were flying. Patman landed a quick punch. Bryant swung a wild left hook. The scuffle spilled toward the sideline. Helmets scattered across the field as teammates, coaches, and even quarterback Tony Romo rushed in to break it up. Stephen Jones and several staff members had to step between them before the fight finally cooled. The moment didn't end with bad blood. Cameras captured the chaos, but just minutes later, Bryant and Patman shook hands and embraced in front of reporters. Bryant admitted he got a little heated, while Patman described it as just brothers fighting. The fallout, no fines, no suspensions. Head coach Jason Garrett called it a product of fierce competition. Owner Jerry Jones echoed that it was nothing unusual for training camp. Still, the video went viral. The clash became one of the most talked about stories of the Cowboys preseason. Lions sucker punch. In May of 2012, during the Detroit Lions' organized team activities, trouble erupted inside the team facility. Wide receiver Titus Young, only a year removed from being drafted in the second round, sucker punched veteran safety Louis Delmas during an off-season workout. The blow shocked the locker room and sent a ripple through the organization. Head coach Jim Schwartz quickly acted. Young was barred from the facility and told to stay away from the team until further notice. For days, his absence was a reminder of the volatile behavior that was already starting to define his young career. When Young eventually returned a week later, he issued an apology, but the damage to his reputation was already done. The punch was only the beginning. Later that year, Young was disciplined multiple times for insubordination, including lining up in the wrong spot during a game against Green Bay and openly clashing with coaches. Each incident widened the gap between his talent and the team's trust. On February 4, 2013, less than 2 years after being drafted, the Lions released Titus Young. Louis Delmas, the teammate who had taken that infamous punch, continued to be a respected starter in Detroit until his release in 2014, Cowboys' sucker punch. On August 30, 1976, the Dallas Cowboys were breaking camp in Thousand Oaks, California. Players were preparing for the season ahead when the team's locker room turned into the scene of one of the ugliest incidents in franchise history. Backup quarterback Clint Longley had been living off the glory of his Thanksgiving Day heroics in 1974. But by 1976, his relationship with teammates had soured. After a practice dust-up where Roger Staubach defended wide receiver Drew Pearson from Longley's insults, tensions boiled over. That afternoon, as Staubach was dressing at his locker, Longley made his move. He blindsided the Cowboys' captain with a sucker punch to the face. The blow was so forceful it knocked Staubach into a locker and left him needing stitches. Players and coaches swarmed to break it up, stunned that a backup had just attacked the heart of the team. Staubach later called the act premeditated and gutless. Assistant coach Dan Reeves, who rushed in, said if he hadn't stepped between them, Staubach might have finished the fight himself. The Cowboys' response was immediate. Within days, Dallas shipped Longley to the San Diego Chargers in a deal that ultimately helped the team acquire the draft pick used to select running back Tony Dorsett, a future Hall of Famer. Bills camp altercation. On August 11, 2016, inside Buffalo Bills training camp, linebacker I.K. Enemkpali, already infamous for breaking Geno Smith's jaw a year earlier, was back in the spotlight, and not for the right reasons. On the first anniversary of that punch, reports surfaced of another altercation. This time, his target was offensive lineman Cyrus Kouangio. Witnesses said Enemkpali took a swing before teammates stepped in to separate the two. It might have looked like just another heated camp scuffle, but what happened next sealed his fate. The very next day, on August 13th, during the Bills' preseason opener against the Indianapolis Colts, Enemkpali went down with a devastating knee injury. The diagnosis? A torn ACL. His season was over before it started. For Buffalo, it was a sudden roster blow. For Enemkpali, it was career-changing. He was waived injured, spent the year on the sideline, and never regained traction in the NFL. Kouangio, meanwhile, continued to battle inconsistency and injuries of his own before also drifting out of the league. In just 24 hours, Enemkpali had gone from headlines about another camp fight to headlines about a season-ending injury. And just like that, his NFL story came to a close. Cowboys and Rams burst up. On August 19, 2015, in Oxnard, California, the Dallas Cowboys and St. Louis Rams lined up for what was supposed to be a routine joint practice. Instead, it erupted into one of the wildest training camp scenes in years. Tempers boiled over during drills. One scuffle turned into another, and soon the sidelines exploded into multiple full-on brawls. Players shoved, swung, and tossed helmets aside as chaos spread across the field. In the middle of it all was Cowboys star wideout Dez Bryant. With his helmet off, he was blindsided by a punch that snapped his head back and stunned the crowd watching from just feet away. Security and coaches rushed in, whistles screamed, and the practice was cut short, nearly half an hour early. In the melee, Bryant even lost a diamond earring, later recovered by a team staffer. The NFL handed down no suspensions, but the incident left a lasting mark. What was meant to sharpen skills had instead spotlighted the volatility of camp, proving that when pride and emotion collide, even practice can look like Sunday warfare. That punch didn't sideline Dez Bryant, but it cemented the 2015 Cowboys-Rams joint practice as one of the most unforgettable preseason moments in recent NFL memory. Buccaneers burst-ups. In 2008, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers drafted Aqib Talib, a talented but fiery rookie cornerback. Within weeks, his name was making headlines for reasons no team wanted. At the NFL's Rookie Symposium that June, Talib got into a fistfight with fellow Buccaneers rookie Corey Boyd inside a league-mandated event meant to teach professionalism. Witnesses described it as a slugfest, broken up by officials. It was an embarrassing introduction to the league. Less than a year later, during Tampa Bay's minicamp in May 2009, trouble struck again. Talib swung his helmet at offensive tackle Donald Penn in a heated practice confrontation. Instead, he struck teammate Torrey Cox, leaving Cox with a facial cut that required stitches. Talib apologized afterward, admitting he had to control his temper. Those early incidents branded him as volatile and left coaches questioning whether his behavior would derail his career. But Talib found a way to channel that fire on the field. Over 12 seasons, he became a 5-time Pro Bowler, a Super Bowl champion with Denver, and one of the most respected shutdown corners of his generation. If you enjoyed this video, I'm going to be posting a lot more interesting videos on the channel. I'd greatly appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. Thank you very much.